Hello, and welcome to our webinar on how to apply for graduate school and get accepted. First off, introductions. My name is Katie Woolman, and I am the Career Counselor and Director of Professional and Career Development at Lenoir-Rhyne University, and have been at Lenoir-Rhyne. I'll celebrate my 11th year this June. And I've worked with many students and alumni in their graduate school application process over the years and have learned a lot along the way that I'm happy to share with you. The goals for this webinar today are to contemplate whether or not you would like to apply for graduate school at this time and how to ask yourself some specific questions to help you determine that answer. We're also going to discuss the typical graduate school application process and timeline. We're going to talk about how to clarify, if needed, your motivations and strengths for applying for graduate school. We're going to share some success strategies surrounding all of those graduate school application materials. And we're going to talk about the options that you have at Lenoir-Rhyne University for pursuing your graduate degree. So first and foremost, thinking through, is graduate school right for you right now? Here are some great questions to help you think through that. Is graduate school or a graduate degree necessary to attain your desired career? There are certainly some careers out there that you can't have and you can't do without that grad degree. Examples that we often think of would be a doctor, lawyer, counselor, and even in student affairs, usually a master's is required. There may be some situations where that graduate degree is not necessary, but you are interested in learning more and deepening your knowledge and possibly your practice of your intended career. Some examples of this might be in some areas of business like marketing or human resources. It's not necessary, but a student might be interested in delving more into their subject area. Another question to ask yourself, would practical experience in your field be actually a better choice at this time? There are some career fields that really value your real-world full-time work experience before you're accepted to a graduate program. It's also valuable to ask yourself what is happening in the job market currently. So if there are any situations going on in the job market that would affect the number of positions in any given career field, contemplating graduate degree as a next step is a good idea. It's also important to ask yourself, are you exhausted or feeling burned out? Some of my students that I've worked with over the years feel this way after a very busy undergraduate career, and they simply do not have the energy to pursue a graduate degree at this time, especially when graduate work is very, very intense usually and very time consuming. Also, some students might be in a situation where they need to earn income, and therefore they might choose working rather than going to graduate school, or some sort of combination of the two. Which leads me to my piece of advice, no matter what the answer to any of these questions is for you, and that is, if you can make the time to submit a quality application, and we're going to talk about what that would entail, apply anyway. When you get accepted to graduate school, you're not required to attend. You still have the option as to whether or not you're going to go to that graduate school. So in order to get multiple options for yourself on the table, it's a great idea to apply to graduate school, even if you're not 100% sure that that's the right next step for you. And even when graduate schools do sometimes have a very strict timeline, even if you decided to go or apply later on in the process, it could still be an opportunity for you. So don't let the idea of having maybe missed some deadlines stop you from applying. So what is graduate school looking for? What do they consider? And what is part of your admission packet that you put together? So they're obviously going to look at your GPA, your grades. Many times they'll ask for a transcript to be able to see that information, and that's going to be important in their decision-making process. Usually they also look at graduate school test scores like the GRE, the GMAT, the MCAT, the LSAT. There's a PCAT, there's a DAT. There are a lot of entrance exams out there. This year, due to the pandemic and the inability for students to be able to take those exams, a lot of waivers are being offered this year. And if not a waiver, an instead of situation. So maybe they can waive the GRE score in lieu of an extra reference or in lieu of an interview as part of your admissions process. So keep an eye out for those opportunities. And we'll talk about what LR is offering there towards the end. The graduate school is also going to be very interested in your experiences and the types of things that you've done that are related to that graduate degree, preferably. And this we can show on our resume. So your resume needs to be updated. It needs to look clear, concise, and professional, and really focused on your career-related experience. In many cases, especially in medical or natural science fields, your admissions committee is also looking at your research experience that you've had. So that's really important to emphasize on a resume. Your application is part of the process, and this usually isn't the most mentally taxing aspect of the application. However, it can be very time consuming. So it's important to plan out time to devote to filling out that application. You're usually also asked for at least one essay. It's many times called a personal statement. And there might also be some additional essays that you're asked for. And we're going to talk more in depth about what should go into the essay here in a little bit. But essentially, it's your chance to explain to the committee why you're interested in a graduate degree and why you think you would be a fit for that graduate program and that career. We're also usually asked for references in our graduate school application. So we want to make sure to ask our references before we list them as contacts in our application. And we also want to help manage our references over time. So checking in with our references, making sure that they've done what they need to do is also part of our responsibility. Sometimes there's an interview as part of the graduate school admissions process, but that's not always an aspect of what students will have to experience. And sometimes a portfolio is asked for or samples of someone's work. And this is becoming more common nowadays to be asked for a portfolio. In fact, I worked with a student just the other day who applied to pharmacy school and was asked for a portfolio. And that might be an area, a career area that we wouldn't anticipate would want a portfolio. But it's always a good idea to have examples of your work and some information about yourself ready to go to be included in a portfolio if you're asked for one. This can be given in a simple Word attachment, or you can create a website. There are a lot of free website hosts out there. WordPress, Weebly, and Wix, as well as Google, are examples of websites that students have used to create their own portfolio. So that's definitely something to consider no matter what career field you are planning to enter. Now, this is an ideal timeline that I want to share. However, it's really important to know that if you're a little bit later in the process, don't assume that you can't move forward. Usually there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. So ideally, the summer before your junior year, and let me back up and say this is for someone who wants to start graduate school right after their undergraduate career. So the summer before your junior year, you want to spend some time researching and identifying the programs that you want to apply for. Ideally, you want to visit your top choices in person. There are a lot of virtual opportunities to do that this summer and at this time of the year. And so visiting in whatever way you can is a really good idea. Not only to investigate if it's going to be the right fit for you, but to help you stand out from the other applicants that may just be submitting online applications. This is also a good time to study for and take your entrance exam. Again, this summer's a little different. A lot of waivers are being offered, and it's very difficult to take these entrance exams. So most schools are aware of that, and I'm interested to see if other options for admissions will continue after we are finished with our mostly virtual interactions. It's also a good time to identify and ask recommenders if they're willing to serve. as a recommender for you. Usually, it's great to provide them with a copy of your resume and make sure that you have all of the accurate contact information for them. It's also a good idea to give them a timeline of when the deadlines are going to occur and the exact information they're going to need to provide. Sometimes recommenders simply fill out a web form, and other times they write a letter of recommendation. So it's good to give them as much information as you can early on. And usually, graduate school applications deadline in late fall or beginning spring of that next school year. So the fall of your senior year is the time to update and fine-tune your resume, start your personal statement. For most students that I've worked with, usually 2 to 3 drafts will do it, but it takes usually a couple of revisions for the personal statement to end up where it needs to be. We can continue managing our recommenders and work on our application. And so, like I said, the deadlines tend to be at the end of the fall or beginning of the spring of someone's senior year if they're wanting to go straight through to grad school. Application success tips that I can share. First and foremost, you want to start with exploring and clarifying, if needed, the answer to these 2 main questions. These 2 main questions should guide all the activities surrounding your application so that the information you're sharing is consistent and compelling. Why do you want to attend graduate school right now? What are your motivations? Really be clear about what those are, because at some point, and in fact at multiple points throughout the process, you're likely to be asked for what those are. Also, this is equally important, and a lot of the students that I've worked with over the years can struggle with this. What do you think will be your successful? Why do you think you'll be successful? What are your strengths? And students struggle with this because they tend to be very humble. They tend to not find talking about themselves very comfortable. But this is very important to explore and to be ready to talk about and to put into words in your application. So as I said, every piece of your application should be founded upon the answers. And if you need help with either question, take a career assessment. We offer free career assessments in the Career Center, and they can be great ways to identify and articulate our strengths. Now for some resume tips. When we are compiling our resume for graduate school, we want to certainly showcase our academic successes and accomplishments. Those should really stand out. We also want to highlight any related research, internship, or project experience that we've had that are related to our intended career path or to that graduate degree. If you don't have any experience that's directly related to what you want to go to graduate school for, that's okay. Showcase your strengths. Also, let's say academics and performance in the classroom haven't been as strong for you, then you need to dig a little deeper to see what strengths you're offering to that graduate program and be able to articulate those. I myself can give a great example of this using my personal background. When I applied to graduate school, I had been working in sales and marketing for 2 years after graduating with a public relations degree, and I applied to go to graduate school to get my master's in college student development, something completely unrelated to any experiences I had had. And also because well, there were a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons that I had a lower than ideal GPA when graduating was that I started out in the wrong major for myself. I was a pre-med major and didn't have very good academic success. Thankfully, my graduate program was mostly interested in the last 2 years of our undergraduate work. That worked really well for me because I had gotten in a better major and started doing better. So they were more forgiving of a less than awesome GPA, I'll say. So again, never let anything hold you back. There are strengths that you have to offer, and if you have to do a little bit more work to find them, that's okay. You just need to be ready to articulate those strengths to your admissions committee. And because of my experiences and what I could communicate to the admissions and program coordinators, in my program, I was able to get accepted, and I was very successful in graduate school. So don't let those things hold you back in either way. Some personal statement tips that I can share. And I've worked with lots of students over the years on these, and I really enjoy working on them. So if I can help you one-on-one, definitely let me know. We like to start out with brainstorming. Again, to some of those answers to those questions that I just posed. Why do you want to apply? What makes you a good fit? And yet, what makes you stand out? What makes you different than the other applicants that they may see? So start with brainstorming some of those items. Then an outline is really going to help your essay have focus and direction and be really compelling. Because your personal statement, it's a marketing tool. It's not your whole story. It's some of your story as it relates to why you want to go to grad school. So being focused is really important, because usually there's a very short limit to the length of what this statement needs to be. A great outline to start with is your thesis. And your thesis needs to be very compelling and answer those questions that I posed to you. Why is graduate school the right move for you? And why would accepting you be the right move for that graduate program? But the thesis is different for every single applicant. Then you need to dive into your college or earlier exposure to your career idea. So when was the first time that you had exposure or interest in that career, and how did that develop over time? Specifically focusing on experiences that confirmed and built the skills that you have to go into your desired discipline. Your career goals and your vision for the future is good to include. And by the way, this is an outline. This isn't exactly the number of paragraphs that you might have. In fact, your experiences that confirmed and built your skills should be a couple paragraphs. Then you want to talk about, after you share your overall vision, why that particular graduate school is the right fit. This is where some of your research comes in handy of your graduate program, any visits that you were able to have, and especially for research programs, many times you are expected to reference a specific faculty member or specific researcher that you would like to work with. So go ahead and mention that in your personal statement. And then a conclusion with that compelling thesis again, maybe said in a little bit of a different way. And the overall goal is that you leave your reader with either a wow factor or a strong desire to want to interview you, or a strong desire to move you along to the next process. So we want our writing to be very compelling. Now, after your outline and your drafting, you want to make sure that you get it reviewed and edited, and the Career Center is happy to help you with that. Faculty in your field, professionals in your field, these are also great people to get help with an editing process. So finally, I want to share what your options are for Lenoir-Rhyne Graduate School. In the Career Center, we are never going to steer you in one direction or the other in terms of which graduate program you apply to. We don't work at admissions. We're here to help you fulfill your career goals. So I would never try to convince someone to apply for a graduate program at Lenoir-Rhyne if that didn't seem like a good option for you. But I did want to make sure that you knew what your options were, and that being an LR student gives you lots of great advantages for graduate school at Lenoir-Rhyne. You've probably heard of some of these advantages before, but there is definitely an alumni advantage in graduate school, meaning you get a discount on your program. So that's really something to consider. I encourage you to take either screenshot of this or pause the webinar to capture this information, there's some websites here. Our graduate program is making sure that this information is updated on a regular basis with the Zoom support and virtual open houses that they are offering. They are very, very accessible at this time virtually. And the best email to send a question to or to start your application process is gradschool@lr.edu. Multiple people check that account, and so you usually get a response very, very quickly. I wanted to share this information with you as well, and you'll see this on those websites that I gave you. So the statement from LR's graduate school is, we are aware that many prospective graduate students are unable to access standardized testing. In response, we may be able to waive this requirement for summer and fall 2020. So that is really good information to have. And I love this last statement. Most importantly, please stay well and know the graduate school cares about you and your future. Having worked with the people in the graduate program ever since I've been at Lenoir-Rhyne, I can attest to that. Not only now during this kind of special, unique situation that we're all in, but at all times. The graduate school gives you a lot of personal attention, really cares about helping you through the process and making sure you have all the information you need to be successful. So they're definitely in your corner, and it's great to communicate with them from the start of your application all through the end. So this might be another good place to take a screenshot or pause and write some of these down. These are the resources that I used to share this information with you today. And at the very bottom is a guide on finding our portal page for the Career Center, where we have an entire graduate school application toolkit. So we'll have this information and lots of other resources available for you, in addition to the one-on-one coaching that we can provide. And that's where I'll end today. The Career Center at Lenoir-Rhyne is here to help you. We offer one-on-one confidential coaching for your graduate school application. And you can make an appointment by logging into your Handshake account with your LR email and password and request an appointment from there. We're able to Zoom, Skype, or have a phone conversation with students, and career services are available to LR alumni free of charge for the rest of your lifetime. So literally at any point in the process after graduation, a year after graduation, if you were like me, 2 years after graduation, we're here to help. So never hesitate to reach out. And we also work through the summer. So whatever time of year you're working on your application, we're here to help. We hope this information has been really helpful for you today, and we look forward to working with you in the future so that you can achieve your dreams. All our best. Take care.